Hey friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got another Copic marker alternative video for you guys. If you've been watching my channel lately, you know that I've been doing this mini series where I have been testing out different brands of alcohol markers and seeing how they compare to the beloved Copics that I have been using for the past 14 years. So my friend Heather lent me this giant tote full of coloring supplies. There were 4 different kinds of alcohol markers in here and a couple of adult coloring books. I haven't gotten to any of the adult coloring books so far because, spoiler alert, so far the series has not been going so well for me in the fact that I have not found anything that is even close to comparable to Copic's in my opinion. But we still have one more kind of markers to test out today, and maybe those might be better, so hopefully they will. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those. So today I am going to be testing out Ohuhu's, and you might be thinking, Christy, wait a minute, you just tested out Ohuhu's in the previous video, and that is absolutely true, but these are completely different in every way, shape, and form that I can see. Here are the ones that I tested in the previous video. They came in this kind of case, which I actually really loved, and they are this kind of barrel. They had the brush nib on this end. They have a chisel nib on this end, which is pretty customary for alcohol markers. Other than that, there is nothing that labels this box other than it just says Ohuhu. There's no like subtitle. There's no colors, names, there's only a number on these. So we're going to compare those to what we're using today, which is going to be the Ohuhu Honolulu markers. And you can see how completely different they are. Completely different size barrel, completely different shape barrel. This one is like a triangle. This one is completely round, but it does have these little stoppers on the caps. It has an actual number and name. So very, very different style to the previous Ohuhu markers. So this one was, I don't know, it didn't say that it was a bright set, but it was mostly brights when I swatched them out. These are a pastel set, so they're automatically going to be a bit different in the color range just based on that. And I did go ahead and swatch all these out. So these are the color swatches that we've got. There are 48 markers in this set. There are 47 colors plus a colorless blender. And these retailed for $49.99 when Heather purchased these. So they are quite a bit more pricey than the other Ohuhus. These were $21.24 when Heather paid for these. Also 48 markers. So that kind of tells me that maybe they've done some upgrades, that these are considered to be a better quality of marker because they are more than twice the price. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of a deeper dive into the color ranges. So like I said, this is a pastel range, and just like all of the other markers, I started with the skin tones and then I went into the blush tones, which led into kind of pinks, purples, reds, oranges, yellows, and then we go into greens, blues, and then the more blue violets, and then the gray tones. So just off the bat, I am much more pleased with this variety of skin tones. We don't have any like really dark skin tones, but again, this is a pastel set, so you can't really expect that from it. But I do see this Caucasian skin tone, which seems way more appropriate for a Caucasian skin tone to me than this kind of pinkish tone that all of the other sets had. All of these other sets had this weird super pink toned that doesn't look like any person's natural skin that I've ever seen. It almost looks like neon. I don't know why they included that. I'm going to do a final video and go through the other stuff, so I don't need to refer back to all of those in this one. But anyway, I do think that there are some more blending possibilities in here. I can see that this is maybe a dark, medium, light, or dark, medium, light. Yeah, it's not a huge variety. Like, I don't really see anything that this would blend with, really. That's kind of like an outlier, although it does kind of go nice with this Lipstick Natural. That could be something interesting, but not as a skin tone. But anyway, you know, I'm happier with this range of skin tones than I have been with any of the other markers that I've reviewed. I do wish that there were a few darker skin tones in there as well, but like I said, this is a pastel set, so you can't really expect them to include those. As far as the pinks, it's a fairly nice variety. I can see that we've got dark, medium, and light, although I do still feel like these two here are super duper similar. If you were coloring with those, you know, and like saturating your paper in like a larger area, I don't know that you would really be able to tell much of a difference between those two shades. We also have like this pale cherry pink looks very, very, very much like this skin tone here. And this Sardonyx also looks very, 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 very close to this one. This is also another one that is almost identical to this and this. So, you know, is the set like ideal for me? Is it like what I would put together on my own? No. But I still am encouraged by some of the shades that I do see here. I can see a dark, medium, light, you know, in a few of these. So where this kind of goes off the rails for me is in the yellows. We have one yellow here. This is actually a yellow as well. I did swatch these two out of order by accident, so I was trying to keep all the yellow reds together, which is like an orangey shade, and I accidentally swapped those. So this is a yellow, so those two should be reversed. They do match well together though. But I don't really consider that like a super yellow shade. It's more of like a peach to me. And we do have this lemon chiffon, but then we have, I don't know what that's supposed to be. It's like almost like a beige. It doesn't really seem yellow. Yes, it has a little bit of yellow undertone, but it is very desaturated, very grayed out. And the same with this yellow gray, which it's called yellow gray, so that's not surprising. But yeah, I don't know how you'd color a bee or anything with that, because there just really isn't anything there in this set. We do have this pale lemon yellow. It's technically green though. The number is the green shades, and it is almost like a fluorescent neon yellow. So again, I don't think I would pair that really with the other yellow. They're very different, but anyway. And then as far as the greens, they're all very blue toned greens, with maybe the exception of this one, which is super desaturated. But there's nothing that is kind of like a fresh grass green. It's all more blue greens. So that's kind of interesting that they went in that direction. We do have a few little aqua shades, which I appreciate. It's really just that one, because this one I would consider more of like a minty green, but I'm very pleased with this color. That's a very pretty shade for me. And then we've got several of these blues. I do think that some of these also look fairly similar, but not identical, so I'm okay with that. And then we move into the lilac shades. So we've got these three here. These two are a little bit more warm and this is a little bit cool. So again, that would be kind of hard, but maybe you could take this one here and make that a mid-tone, although it's very similar to the pale lilac. I'm not sure if there's enough of a difference to really consider one a medium and one a light, but we could try it. We probably will try it. And then we've got all of these grays, and this is where this set gets really interesting for me because Copic has 4 different gray families, and Ohuhu has so many. We have that yellow gray over here. We've got red grays, which have kind of like a pinky kind of undertone to them. We've got what I would say is a blue gray. BG and Copic stands for like blue green, so that's a little, that throws me off a little bit, but that's what they're calling their cool grays. The CGs, which you would think are cool grays, are what they're calling neutral grays, so that's a little bit throwing me off as well. And then MG, I don't even know what that stands for, but that's a blue gray. And then we've got a green gray and a one warm gray. So do the grays really fit together well? I'm not sure. A few of them kind of do. I really like these two together. I don't know. These two maybe would work together with a little extra effort. I could maybe see if you didn't use these two together, that this one would maybe blend with this one. These two also work well together. These two work well together. So they're kind of in a little bit of pairs. This one and the warm gray could also maybe work together. It's just really interesting to me to see how many different families of grays that they have in this set. So anyway, that is the overview of the swatches, and I'm gonna sit down and color something with you guys so that we can test these out in real time. So let me just get set up real quick. So I'm using the same stamp sets that I used in the 3 past videos. It's not the exact same images. I've kind of switched things up for each one. But it is the Hello Bluebird Fairy Dance and the Fairy Garden stamp sets. And I chose those just because they illustrate a wide range of different things to color, like skin tone, hair tone, flowers, elements of nature like mushrooms and little bugs and things like that. So each one was a little bit different, but I wanted to kind of have you be able to compare them to each other as well, which is why I chose to do the same stamp sets throughout. So I am gonna go ahead and start with her skin, just like I did with the previous 3. So I'm gonna pull out the skin tones here, and I think I'm gonna go for sand, brick beige, and eggshell white. Okay, so there's that one. Brick beige is going to be the medium, and sand is going to be dark. Also, the nib of this Ohuhu Honolulu style marker is completely different than the other Ohuhus, and I talked about that in the first intro video as well, so I'm not going to go back into all of that, but they are completely different styles of markers. And I'm just going to go ahead and lay in a little bit of shadow. It does come to a very, very fine tip, which I am instantly enjoying because you can really get in there with those small little strokes. And then we'll go in with the brick beige and try to blend that out a bit. Just pull that darker color. It's not a perfect match. I can see that right away. It's kind of muddying up her skin tone. But I'm hopeful that when I bring in the eggshell white, that maybe that will soften it a bit. So we'll just fill in the rest of her face with that. Do I love it? I'm going to be honest, no, I don't. but it's definitely better than any of the other skin tones I've come up with from any of the other sets, so I'm not gonna knock it too hard. Yeah. Okay, her hair is gonna be tricky because we don't really have any brown tones that are dark enough, and we also don't really have many blonde tones, but let's see if I can come up with anything here. Maybe we could try the deep cream, the sand white, and the lemon chiffon. I don't know. This one's really tricky because there really isn't anything that looks like it would work for hair. I mean, maybe you could have used the sand, but now we've used that for her face, so I don't want to use the same color. And obviously this ash rose doesn't blend with anything unless we gave her like pink hair or something like that, which I am not against, but I kind of want to keep it consistent for all the other ones. We've either done blondes or brunettes. And for the sake of comparison, I think I should stick with a natural hair color. All right, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try that. So I am hoping that the two much more desaturated, you know, yellows and beiges will help it look a little bit more natural, and then maybe the lemon chiffon will kind of warm it up. I really don't know what to expect from this combo, but I'm going to go ahead and start laying it in. This is my darkest shade, which is super pale when you think that that is supposed to be the low lights in the hair. I'm just adding a few little streaks here. And then I'll come in with the sand white. Just kind of elongate those a little bit, pull out those midtones, and then kind of holding my breath a little bit here with this lemon chiffon, and kind of just filling in the rest of it here. And it's not terrible, but there is definitely like zero contrast for me. So what could I do? Maybe I'll throw a little bit of that ash rose in there. Let me try that and see what happens. I mean, it needs contrast. There's just really almost nothing there. And like I said, this is a pastel set, so just by nature of that, there is not going to be a lot of contrast, but you know, all I can review is the set as they sell it. If you were to purchase this set on your own, would you be able to make it work until you could afford to add more markers? That's what I'm trying to show you guys here. It's not only the markers themselves, but the actual sets. Can you make them work for you? So that's what I am trying to discover here. But like I've said, I don't advocate for markers that are sold in sets anyway. I have never purchased my Copics in sets. And if you go back to like my really old Copic favorite series where I was talking about, I mean, it's not that old, but it's a couple years old, like which Copics you should start with, which colors you should buy, all of that. Even back in that video, I was not recommending sets. I was saying stay away from sets because you aren't gonna get the best variety. You'll get a better variety if you purchase the markers singly, which some marker brands allow you to do, but a lot don't. And most of the ones that I have reviewed previously do not. Okay, this is just starting to get muddy now, and I just wish I had like one more deeper shade to throw in there, but there really just isn't anything that's dark enough. Even the grays, like none of them are really they're not going to do anything. Maybe I'll throw a little bit of that sand in there. But now we're really like, how many markers do we want to use? I'm going to try to be super sparing with it. But Ohuhu does allow you to buy their markers individually. I'm not sure if it's all of the different kinds of sets, because as we established earlier, they do have different kinds of markers, and I'm not sure if all of them are available individually, but I know that you can purchase some of their markers individually, so you still could, you know, maybe end up building a set and then filling in some gaps when you see what you're missing that way. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't look great, but how much longer am I going to keep working on it? I think we just need to move on. She needs some rosy cheeks, so I think the light prawn is going to be too dark. I wish there was something in the middle between these two, but there isn't. So I think I'm going to go in with the sardonyx and then blend out with the pale cherry pink. So let's try that. So the sardonyx is going to be the darker shade. And that is super pale. It's almost too pale. Try just blending out the edges, but okay, so let's take that light prawn and just add a touch of it and see if we can make that work. Okay, that's actually not so bad. And I'm actually really pleased with that. That is not bad at all. Okay, for her dress, I'd like to try some of these blue shades. I think these three would probably blend pretty well, but I really love this lavender mist, this kind of periwinkle shade, so I think I want to start with that and maybe blend that with the pale blue and then the pale grayish blue. So that's what I'm going to do. So pale grayish blue is going to be the lightest, and pale blue. I always have to read the names on these because the caps are not necessarily indicative of the color difference. So we'll start with this lavender mist. We'll do a little bit of shading over here, around her collar, a little bit below her drop skirt, and then just a touch on each of the little ruffles of her dress. It's a pretty small little area, so there's not a lot of ground to cover. And we'll come in with this pale blue. And you know what? That's not bad. I can see them a little bit competing, but it's honestly not bad. And I think if I went in with a second layer, I could smooth out that blend pretty well. That is honestly not too bad. Just do a little bit more, that darker color. Touch of that mid-tone. And then a little bit more of that highlight. I'm not going to cover the whole highlight area. And that's actually pretty cute. I'm not going to lie. That's not bad. I think I'll just add a tiny bit of this palest shade up here to give that collar a little bit of a cast. And I'm not going to lie, the wings have got me nervous because we have not been successful yet on any of these swatch videos or coloring videos, but this frost blue is a bit lighter than any of the other colors we've attempted with. So I'm hopeful, although I do wish that there were one shade paler to kind of help transition it, but we shall see. That we're going to take that and then we're going to just blend it out with the colorless blender and see how that goes. So I'll go ahead and just add a little bit color wherever there would be some shadow. Right behind her body, down on this side as well, around her hairline, a touch right there, and just soften the edge of that. I'm not going completely over the blue, only over the edge of where I placed that blue, just like I would with Copics or any other alcohol marker. And so far, this is definitely the most successful I've been. Is it perfect? No. Like I said, I wish I had one more transition shade so I could pull that out a little bit further. But honestly, compared to the other ones, I'm satisfied. For our leaves and stem, I feel like these greens are just too blue toned. So the only option that is left to me are these three here. So I guess we're gonna see if we can make them work. So we've got the pale lemon yellow, the lime green, which to me is anything but, and horseradish. So let's go in with the horseradish first. Just lay in a bit of shadow at the base of each leaf. Also color up part of the stem. And again, I do appreciate this fine tip of this nib to kind of get in there pretty easily. Do a little bit on these little caps. All right. Next is going to be the lime green, which does not really blend very well with this, but we'll just keep working over it, see if we can make it play nice together. And then we'll come in with this pale lemon yellow, which this is kind of bizarre. But like I said, this is the green combo that you get in this set if you purchase it. So if you're purchasing a set like this, wanting to color immediately with your stamps or with your coloring book, whatever it is that you like to color, this is what you will be able to do with it. If you have any grass, if you have any leaves, any tree tops, anything like this, that's your greens, unless you want to go with the blue greens, which you could, but warm greens are more of a true, well, for certain leaves anyway. I wouldn't say all the time, but a lot of times, grass and treetops and everything, it's definitely more of a yellow green than a blue green. So if you're wanting it to look kind of natural, which I wouldn't say it does, but I'm trying to do that second coat to see if I can get it just to blend a tiny bit more. And you know, these colors, they just kind of want to fight together. I can see if I keep working that, it's going to start bleeding outside the lines right here. I can see that that paper is super saturated right on that black line there. So I'm not going to work over it anymore. It's just going to be what it is. We'll move on to the flowers. I want to do purples for the bluebells, and it gets a little tricky here because the pale lilac and the thistle are again almost identical, almost the exact same shade. So you can't consider one of those a dark and one of those a light. So, and the viola is much more blue toned than the mauve and definitely the pale lilac. But I think I'm going to try to make this work. This is lighter, so this is going to be the dark, medium, light. Just start by adding in some little lines to make the flower look a bit fluted. I'll add a little bit of color to this other side over here. Give this flower kind of the same treatment. And then since this one's closed, we'll just do a little bit up at the top. Then we're going to come in with the viola. Just kind of pull that color out a bit. Elongate those little stripes. Fill in the other side since that's in more shadow. And then we'll come in with the pale lilac and try to fill in. So yeah, this is not a great combo together because this one is much more warm toned. It has a much more pink undertone to it than both of the other two, but especially the viola. So I'm going to be very cautious adding a little bit more because I think it's going to probably try to do the same thing as the green and bleed outside the lines because these colors are just fighting for room, for space on the page. And so I don't want to overdo it and then have color just go everywhere. But I also can't leave it as it is because it doesn't look very nice. So I'm just going to be very careful adding in that highlight. Just trying to bring it together a little bit more. And there we go. I'm not really loving that. And of course, one of my neighbors just started mowing while I'm mid-video, but at this point I just have to get this done, so hopefully it's not too noisy. For my mushrooms, I think I'm going to go with these peachy tones just to try something different. We'll see if those work well together. So we've got the carmine red, the mellow peach, and the light orange. So just add a little bit of the light orange first down to the base. I'm just going to do them both the same. And then let's see, mellow peach is the mid-tone. Okay. It's not a perfect blend, but it's not bad. I just had to work over it like twice, especially on the larger one. And then the carmine red, also not too bad. Just a little touch extra. I feel like the shadows are getting lost there. Just blend that out one more time. I'm not going to even bother with the lightest tone. And then for the stems, I think I'm going to go with the cream and the buttercup yellow, or should I do the deep cream and the yellow gray? I don't know if that would go with the caps. I think I'm going to go with these two here. And there's nothing that really goes with those, so I think I'm just going to do a 2-color blend, which is really unlike me, unless it's a super small area, and this is not, but I just don't know what else to you know, put with it. So just do a little shadow up under the caps, blend that out, and then I definitely need to do a little bit more because there's just no contrast there, hardly at all. And we'll just leave it like that. So we've just got our little bug to go. I haven't used the cool toned pinks yet, so I think I'm going to go with these 3, even though maybe I should skip this one, the light hot pink, and go straight to the pink. Maybe I'll do that because these two are just so similar. So I'll take the pink for my lightest, and I will skip the light hot pink. So we'll go straight to the light pink and then the hollyhock. Let's try that. So hollyhock first, And these should blend fairly decently because this is a super small area to do it in. And small areas usually blend better because you're just not laying down as much ink, so that you don't have to fight so hard. All right. Not too bad. Not much contrast, but just add a tiny extra bit of the... Oh, that's not even the hollyhock. See, the caps are deceiving. The light pink looked darker to me, but just add a little extra of that. And then let me see what I want to do for the rest of him. Well, we definitely need to try out some of these grays, and the ones that are most intriguing to me are the red grays. So I think I'm going to do the red gray 12 and the red gray 11, but those don't really match with the red gray 03. These are much more cool tone. That's really warm tone. So I think I'm going to go down to this neutral gray 02 because it's super pale, and I think that should blend fairly well. So we'll do the neutral gray 02 as the lightest, and then the 11 is the mid, and the 12 is the dark. So we're just going to do the little face and the rest of these little stripes. Red gray 11. And then the neutral gray. Yeah, that's not bad. Again, we just don't have much contrast, but we'll just add a little bit more of that darkest shade there. And then blend it out just a touch on the face. All right, so that's where I'm gonna stop. All right, so final thoughts on the Ohuhu Honolulu markers. They weren't bad. They really weren't bad. I definitely got the best results out of these than any of the other three that I did. I'm much more pleased with this. Is it like up to my usual standards? Not quite. But then again, if I had to color with only pastel Copics, that would be a little bit tricky to navigate as well. So I am going to give these markers the benefit of the doubt in that situation, just being that they are a pastel set. Would I recommend this set to other people? I mean, maybe. It's really not bad. I definitely don't think that you can get away with using just what's here. I think you would probably need to start adding in a few other markers, particularly some darker brown shades, some darker skin tones, you know, some shades you can use for hair, depending on what you like to color. If you don't color people, but I mean, even if you color critters, you're gonna need those shades. I definitely think there are some gaps here. I think there are some dupes here that were kind of unnecessary. I would have loved to see some of these shades that were super similar removed and something else put in their place. Definitely a lighter aqua, definitely like the darker browns, like I said. I would add another purple in there that was more of the warm tones, or else a couple of more cool tones. So yeah, I think there's definitely a huge hole in this set when it comes to yellows. So that's something to be aware of, and I definitely think the greens are not the most natural looking greens. But could you buy this set and start coloring with it? I do think so, yes. You could make it work for a while and then kind of figure out where your gaps are and fill them in. If it were me personally, I still don't like sets, and I would just buy all of the markers individually. But if you're not familiar with the markers and the color ranges, then, you know, it might be too daunting of a task to just start out buying all of the markers individually. So in that case, maybe you do want to start with a set and then, you know, build your collection out from there. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I think the coloring was not too terrible. It definitely looks like a cute little fairy. I could see this little scene possibly on a card. Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased. I'm pleased that it's not, you know, I was super frustrated the last 3 videos to the point where I didn't even know if I should put them out because it was just so much frustration for me. But I wanted to be real with you guys. I wanted to give you honest opinions, and I want to let anybody know who is thinking about purchasing those sets that this is the results that you're going to get. Even if you're somebody who's been coloring with them for way over a decade like me, if I can't get good results from some of those sets of markers, somebody who's only been coloring for a year or two probably isn't going to get great results either. That's all I'm trying to say with those videos. So your money might be better spent elsewhere, like maybe with the Ohuhu Honolulus. I really liked the tip on these. I thought they colored nicely on the paper. Overall, it's a positive. I would say I'd probably give them maybe a 7 out of 10 if I had to rank them. You know, in regards to Copics, I do think that maybe if I had more colors available to me, that could go a little bit higher. But for this video today and the experience I just had, I think I'm pretty settled on a 7 out of 10 rating. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will do one more wrap-up video just going over my final thoughts and takeaways from this whole experience and each of the sets, and maybe ranking them in order from worst to best, and maybe even like maybe I'll color something with Copics to kind of compare it against them. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to finish this out, but I will have that video coming very soon and just share those final thoughts with you. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it helpful and informative, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.